This is Mainstreet with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Mainstreet. Gary Allen with you, as I am every Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. We've got a great show for you today, but before we get to that, I just want to remind you we'll be on next week again at 2 p.m. I have Joe Casal on. I told you a little bit about that last week, thinking he was on this week. That's my error. My apologies. Joe is a former public relations director, sports agent, a broadcaster, public speaker. You name it, he has done it. He's represented some athletes around the world. We're going to talk about sports. We're going to talk about a whole host of things that are going on in South Florida. He lives just a little bit north of the Miami area. Before we get going any further, I hope you've had a wonderful week since the last time we were together. I hope everybody in your family is safe and sound. I want to thank my executive producer, Rick Del Vecchio, for making the show possible, along with Andres and Ilian and Mike, who helped produce the show and put it together for me. Without them, I wouldn't be able to do this, along with Michael and Grant Miller, who give us the platform here on Community News Network to put this show on board. And we've got some great shows coming for you down the line. I told you a couple of weeks ago, a little teaser, that I might have an Academy Award-winning actor on. I still don't have a confirmation date for him, but he will be coming on at some point, either in June or July. Probably July, because he's going to Chicago to film an episode of Chicago PD, a show that I love very much, and I know a few of the actors that are on that program. But I also would like to thank our community sponsors, the Japanese Gardens of Miami and the Elks Lodges of South Florida. And thank you very much for your continued support, and to all of you out there for continuing to watch us. You can also make comments if you tuned in. We have a comment board over here. You can comment, ask questions of me or my guests, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. My guest this afternoon is a gentleman who many of you out there already know. He has been an entertainer in New York, Las Vegas, South Florida. He's been entertaining and delighting people for decades, between here, there, and everywhere. He's a professional singer. He's a professional dancer. He is a musician of note. He is a multi-talented entertainer, a multi-talented individual, and he's been entertaining audiences for, well, this is his 70th year in show business. So that gives you an idea of how long he has been around. Longer than I have been around. Well, almost, not quite, but you never know. Without further ado, would you please welcome to the stage, and it is my pleasure to welcome him to Mainstreet, Mr. Chris Autore.
How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Chris?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, I mentioned that you have been entertaining audiences for decades. And that's the truth, everywhere from Birdland in New York, which we will show a video of in a little while, to the Bootleggers in Las Vegas, a place that I am extremely familiar with, having been a resident of Las Vegas for a number of years, as well as the Jockey Club and other places throughout South Florida and points in between. Before we get into your career and where it began at a very tender young age, how have you noticed audiences have changed over the years, besides the music that they want to hear or whatever? How have audiences changed, if at all, when you're playing for them?
Well, years ago when people drank and drove, they would go from one town to the next to see me, and they didn't have a drinking and driving problem then. But once that started, people started only wanted to stay in local areas. It was like I used to pack them in up in Connecticut. They used to come in from New Haven to Hartford, and Hartford to Massachusetts. And then when I moved to South Florida in '86, all that changed. Like, nobody wanted to drive to Boca from Fort Lauderdale. They said, well, you can't drink, and we don't want to drink and drive. And so, everything changed that way for audiences for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not, and Fort Lauderdale and Boca are not that far apart. It's like going from East Hartford to West Hartford. It's not that far.
I know.
My dad's family is from Pequannock and East Hartford, and as a matter of fact, my dad learned how to fly airplanes right there at Bradley Field, along with his brothers. Yeah, and he used to fly into Bradley Field when he was with Eastern Airlines, but He didn't particularly care for it because it brought back memories. I don't know what kind, but he just, the airplanes he flew were a little big for Bradley Field at the time till they extended the runway. I love Connecticut. I still have some family members up there. I have a brother who's in Boston, who's a Greek Orthodox priest. Harriet Gordon Cutler wants a congratulations to you on your 70 years in the entertainment business. So, Harriet, thank you so very much for tuning in and listening. Hope you enjoy the show. You began your career kind of at 3 years old, but you keep telling me, no, I mean, yes, Gary, I did, but it was really more like 5 years old.
I started singing when I was 3. My grandmother used to sing in my ear when I was a kid. She used to hold me over her shoulder. She used to sing Italian songs to me in my ears. All of a sudden, I started singing, and I really, they took me to New York, and I was accepted on the Horn and Hardart Children's Hour in 1949 on Channel 4, CBS. And I was one of those kids in one of those musical children's shows.
Did you know back then, or was it just like a lot of kid stars that I've talked to that I've gotten to know as friends, or was it just fun for you? Did you have any thought process? Gee, I might want to make a living at this at 5 years old. I doubt it, but was there any of that thought?
At 11. Because when I was 5 years old, it became grueling for my mom to teach me the songs. We had to hire a piano player. The piano player had to teach me these crazy songs for, the script. And it got a little too much. I started becoming shy and difficult. So at 6 years old, they pulled me out. But at 11, from 6 to 11, that's all I dreamed about is
Really?
Why am I not on this show? Why am I not doing what I love to do?
Mm-hmm.
My mother told me I became difficult. So at 11, I started taking dancing lessons. At 16, opened up my own dancing schools when I was in high school, doing that. And then went into the military, Air Force in 1966. Come back to the Air Force and boom, went right back. The music career started at 17 years old. Then I dropped the dancing and went full time into music. And that take me to where I am right now.
And in high school, opening up dance studios, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you, even my generation, which is a generation a little bit behind you, because I graduated from high school in 1970 at Hollywood Hills, not far from where these studios are. I wasn't thinking about, I was thinking about a career moving forward and following in my dad's footsteps, but I had no thoughts. And I had an uncle, as you well know, who was a performer on Miami Beach forever, Tubby, Mr. Tubby Boots. But I had no aspirations or thoughts of being in show business or radio or television or anything else. So you were really ahead of the curve, many steps ahead of your classmates.
I wanted to be a businessman since I was 11 years old.
And that's probably what has kept you going.
My dad helped me open up my first dancing school, and the dancing school closed because I was in the military. I had to go into the Air Force, and therefore the dancing studios had to go close down. But I had also been doing music since I was 18 years old, 17, 18. Started working in lounges up in Waterbury, Connecticut, where I'm from. Mm-hmm. And but when I came back from the Air Force, I didn't open up the dance studios anymore. I thought that music was the way to go.
You and I were both in the Air Force. I was a little bit later than you. I joined in 1970. Were you part of the entertainment division of the United States Air Force? Because I know there is the bands and there is
I did not do the music in the Air Force. No.
Mm-hmm. Sharon Matston, Maston,
Mastoon. Hi.
Mastoon. She says hello, and you're looking great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All I know is the look that I'm looking at, That's all I've ever known Chris had, looking like that. But that's great that people are tuning in, and I hope they enjoy the show. At 19 years old, you joined the Air Force, you were in the military, and you came back out, and this is what you wanted to pursue because you wanted to pursue it since you were 11 years old. What were you doing when you first got out of the Air Force? What did you immediately go from being in the Air Force to a civilian, and boom, you were off and running?
Immediately from the Air Force, I went right into my first job in music. I called up all the agents I could get my hands on and say, hey, I'm available. I want to work. And when I moved to South Florida, I used a few agents, but I've been booking myself now for the last 35 years here. I'm here, 38 years. No, the first 3 years I had agents. So 35 years, I'm a solo artist now. And word of mouth, and I get all my jobs from people hearing me, seeing me, and I've been actually running my own show.
You have, and you're an extraordinary entertainer, as people know who have followed you, and you've been everywhere and anywhere from, like I said, Las Vegas, New York, and South Florida. Chris, when you are putting together an act, and I'm not referring to what we're going to talk about down the road here in a little bit, but when you're putting together an act and you're selecting songs for your nightclub act, okay, and for when you're performing here and you're performing there, where do you pick and choose? Now, you could pick and choose your favorites, and that's all well and good, but do you get suggestions from the audience? Do you get suggestions from listening to the radio as you're driving around town? I mean, where do you get the idea that I'm going to take that song and incorporate it here?
If I hear a song on the radio and I don't know what the name of it is, I immediately put Shazam on, and Shazam will tell me what the name of the song is. I immediately go to Spotify and I download the song as a karaoke so that I could sing it. And then I take it to work with me, and I have been known to rehearse at airports. I've been known to put songs together at airports and then take them to the job immediately that night and pull them for the first time. I don't have any set shows. I play my audience. I go into a room, I look at the crowd, I know, well, if I don't know what to play, I start experimenting. I'll start off with Sinatra. If I find that it needs to be a little up the game, I start doing a little more younger music, a little more 70s, 80s. 60s is my favorite because that's when I grew up. And that's how I do my shows. I have a show this Sunday at the River House on Las Olas, a big, extraordinary, exclusive building that I'm going to be playing for lots of officials in Fort Lauderdale. And I have no set routine for that show. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to look at the room, and I'm going to do me.
Is how, because I'm familiar with Las Olas, but I haven't been down there in years. Is that anywhere near where O'Hara's used to be?
A little bit further in the more expensive part of Las Olas.
Okay, because I used to do a lot of work for Kitty in the past, and she was very instrumental in helping local jazz artists on stage and hiring them to do shows, and I would do her voiceover work for her. So in other words, you do the smart thing like all good entertainers do. I mean, except if you were Sinatra or Martin and you have a set routine. I mean, Dean Martin did the basic same show for 20 years. He basically did. You judge the audience. You take a look at the room, you measure it up, and then you go from there. You try a couple of songs. If it isn't working, you move forward.
I tell everyone who comes to hear me, if they want to hear me prior to hiring me, I tell them, don't judge what you hear, what you're going to hear here for your party. Your party is going to be your party. And so what I do over here, I may not be doing over there. So it's like, and it's worked for me because I never go stale. People don't get tired of me because I make the songs my own. I do my own thing. I've always said that, you know, people can copy my music and they can emulate everything that I'm doing, but they will never be or have my personality. So it's my personality that carries the show. Exactly.
By the way, Sharon has said that she loves every song that you sing. Sometimes I listen to him to help me fall asleep. Fall asleep. Sharon, okay, you can call me up. I'll help you fall asleep. I'll just do a couple of impressions for you, and you'll be asleep in no time at all. You know, it's funny. When I was living in Las Vegas, I had the wonderful opportunity to get to know Barry Manilow. And as a DJ, we used to refer to him as Barely Man Enough. And then when I got to know him, and I got to go to his shows a lot, and he'd always make sure I had free tickets for friends coming into town. And his shows are more or less the same as you move forward. He takes things out and he puts new things in from time to time. But he said the very same thing as you. You can copy me all you want, You can impersonate me all you want, but you're not going to get me on stage, which brings me to my next question. A lot of entertainers, they know how to sing. They don't really understand phrasing at first, and that's extremely important. They don't understand that it needs to come from here, your heart, when you're singing. But there also needs to be the show part of it. How difficult is that for a lot of performers? They do a lot of crazy things on stage and they move their arms and their legs, and it's useless movement. Do you say anything to these entertainers that you see sometimes, or and say, you don't really need to do all that. Just do the song and be yourself, be natural. You don't need to do all these crazy movements and gyrations.
I've had drummers who overplay. I've hired many drummers over the years who overplay. And I say, if you just calm down and be basic with it and stay in the back. They want to do solos all the time. So I always used to have to calm the drummers down.
Mm-hmm.
I had two girls out front who both played conga drums. One on the right, one on the left. Me and the drummer, we were a four-piece back in Hartford, Connecticut. And nobody overdid it in that band. It was just very, very unique. It was called the Unique Experience.
And you guys were tight. You guys were tight.
And we were tight.
And that's the important thing. Who was Andy Kahn to you?
Andy Kahn is a music producer, pianist that I met here in South Florida because he came into a club when I was performing, and I happened to perform the song that he wrote. It was a big hit back in 78. Karen Young performed it. It was called a song called Hot Shot. So I was in Fort Lauderdale playing this song, and Andy Kahn came up to me and said, "That's my song." And I said, "Oh my God, is that you?" And we've been friends ever since. I mean, I think I'm the only musician who plays that song. It's really a big hit, this big disco hit from the disco days, Studio 54, Fire Island, the Ice Palace, all of the big dance clubs.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy wrote a little article about me, which I gave to you on my resume. And
yes, you did.
It was highly complimentary.
Very complimentary indeed. He really praised you up and down and mentioned that you managed to move in and out through different genres. And your stage presence is absolutely spectacular, which it would have to be to sustain a career of 70 years. It's not smoke and mirrors, folks. It's not smoke and mirrors. This gentleman works his butt off for his audience. And that's another part about it too. You go to a lot of places, Chris, and you and I've talked off the air over this last week or so about a number of places I used to go to when I lived in South Florida, where you'd see the acts, playing at a restaurant or something. And after a while, they're going through the motions and they're just kind of there, and their atmosphere, music. You take it one step above and beyond all of that, which I think is fantastic, because people not only want to be wined and dined while they're out eating, but they want to be entertained at the same time. Because most of the time, people aren't talking to each other really anyway. So they're listening to the music. And I think that's what you do. You give them a show.
Gary, I make them listen.
Yeah.
I actually make them listen. If I feel that they're not listening, I leave the piano and I walk out to the table and I get their attention.
Now that's something very interesting. See, entertainers didn't do that before. I mean, they would do it if they'd leave the stage and come down. Michael Bublé does that all the time when I've worked with him in the past. But to do that in a club, and by the way, you perform on a regular basis in Fort Lauderdale. Where are you at, or is it in Boca?
It's Maggiano's in Boca. I'm there 10 years. I just finished Cafe Vico, which used to be the Knicks upstairs. That's where a lot of Miguel, a very famous piano player in Fort Lauderdale, played. Where I'm off for the summer there. Things do slow down here in Florida.
Yeah.
I do entertain the old folks in the afternoons. That's my day job. I have a lot of high-end senior homes, buildings that I go to. I do 1-hour shows there. And I'll tell
How
you
is
what,
that?
keep them awake.
How is that? I mean, that's got to make you feel inside really, besides I mean, really great about yourself, because a lot of people, they go into the senior homes and they're forgotten about. They really
30
are.
years ago, I found it very sad, and I couldn't take it. But I grew up and I learned how to do it. Uh, I would go in there and I would start to play, and they would be falling asleep in the chairs, and I would say, "Oh, this is sad, and
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore." But I reinvented how I play the senior retirement homes, and that is we play games. I keep them alert. I keep them awake. We play name that tune. We play lots of things. I get up, I walk around with a mic, and I ask them for special requests, and I keep them awake, and
Yeah.
they love it. And you know what? It made the job really interesting for me because now I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like I said, we're all getting a little bit older, and I've been to a few senior homes when I lived in Las Vegas. So I performed, and some friends of mine up here asked me to perform when I first moved here in Orlando. And it is sad when you do it the first few times until you begin to understand exactly what's going on, and the dynamic of it.
You've got to do a particular show for that community.
Yeah.
Particular show meaning it's got to be something that gets their attention. You can't just go in there as a musician and play, or just go in there and sing, because then
Yeah.
they'll fall asleep. You have to keep them interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking to Chris Autore. He's my guest here on Main Street. Gary Allen with you, as I am every Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. And Chris is kind enough to spend a couple of minutes with us this afternoon. Chris, back in 1971, you managed to work with a gentleman named Jerry Weiss, I think it is, or Weiss, and he helped you
Jerry
get
Weiss.
Jerry Weiss, excuse me. He helped you get to a major start in some of the major clubs in New York. Talk about that.
Well, Jerry Weiss was the entertainment director up at Grossingers. Grossingers was one of my big highlights of my career. We didn't know what it was. We didn't know if we wanted to go, but my agent, Complex 4, out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, had us working in Tampa, Florida, St. Petersburg. And he said, I was a duo then, me and a drummer, Hank Marshall. We were told we were going to be brought to Grossingers, and that was going to be a big boost to our career. Well, we didn't exactly know what was going to happen until we actually got up there to that gig. And oh God, it was just one of the best parts of my career. It's history, entertainers' history.
Everybody knows about Grossingers. If you're anywhere around the tri-state area, everybody knows about Grossingers.
And it's unfortunate that it's gone now.
Yeah.
I did a show on Grossingers last year, and I depicted everything about the good and how it declined.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really sad, but it's part of my fabric of my career.
Looking back on your career, what advice would you give that young man at 11 years old or 19 years old, or when you came out of the Air Force, of what you've learned about this business and about yourself that you would pass on to him back then?
You have to be tough. You can't let what people say, because everyone has something to say, drinking, talking. Most of my gigs, like we all did, we all start off in lounges where there's alcohol. Now I'm doing more things that are just on a stage. Some of these high-end retirement places in Florida, Palm Beach to Miami, they have some really nice theaters.
Yeah.
So you don't have to deal with that. But when you're starting out, you take whatever's available and you got to deal with it as it comes. And you've got to treat it like a business. Don't go in there thinking you're going to drink and party with the people and stay out all night, and you're not taking care of your craft, your music or whatever, and you're just partying. That's where a lot of people that I knew were out of work. And what I tried to do is I tried to keep it a business, and I kept going. And, I had a wife and a kid to support, so I couldn't screw up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was
Sharon,
in my bones to be a business person.
by the way, Sharon, I think Sharon's one of your biggest fans, my
Oh
friend,
my God.
because she thinks that she loves your Grossingers shows as well as all your other shows. I've watched them all during the pandemic. So it's obviously, you need to send a check to Sharon. Put it first thing in the morning. Sharon, thank you so much. We appreciate you. I also just want to, again, thank my community sponsors, the Japanese Garden of Miami, as well as the Elks Lodges of South Florida for their continued support and sponsorship, and Michael and Grant Miller for allowing us to be on this wonderful platform, which is growing. We're going to be getting bigger and better, and some great stuff is coming on down the line. When you talk to young entertainers today, and I don't know how often they may come up to you or you see them perform or whatever the case may be. I know I used to go with Tubby to these amateur singing contests, and I think I told you the story. I'm not sure where this is just before Tubby passed away. It was the last thing that he and I did together before he went on the road, and he passed away on the road. I said, if there's one more kid at 9 years old that gets up and sings My Way, I will drive you to this gig. But if one kid gets up there and does it, I'm out of there and you find a taxi and you get yourself home. Because I got tired of these 9 and 10-year-old kids singing My Way. What do you know? Well, we went through the whole show. We get to the last kid, 7 years old, from somewhere in North Miami. And Tubby's looking at me and he says, well, it looks like I got a safe ride home. I said, yeah, well, let's see what this kid does. And guess what he did? He sang My Way. I got up, I walked out. All I did was go to the bar, and I just sat there, waited for Tubby to follow me after the kid sang My Way. And he looks, he said, oh, you didn't leave me. I said, no, I'm not going to leave you. I said, but I am so tired of this stuff. What do you tell young performers today when they approach you and they say they want to be in the business, men, women, etc., drummers, whatever the case may be? What advice do you give them about being on stage, and from what you have learned, not what you would tell yourself, but again, what you would tell young talent that's coming up?
I don't usually get too many kids where I work, and over the years I had a few people. But I will tell you that I did meet a young gentleman when I worked at the Jockey Club in Miami. He was 20 years old. His name was Rob Russell. He used to come into the Jockey Club lounge with his parents at 20 years old and saw Chris Autore performing, where I used to get off the piano and I used to actually climb up on the bar, and I used to walk the bar with the cordless mic between everyone's drinks. The women were sticking $100 bills in my parachute pants in those days. And Rob went on to be a fantastic entertainer up in Palm Beach.
Huh.
And we connected 2 or 3 years ago, and he told me the story that he was inspired by me at the Jockey Club and what I did, and he wanted to be a performer too. And he went on to do some big things up at the Colony in Palm Beach.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to watch young people come and go. Harriet also wants to say that you've produced many wonderful videos over the years, and for various artists and places, and where you have performed. So Harriet is also a major fan of yours as well.
Hi, Harriet.
Chris, I want to talk about something and then we're going to see a beautiful video of you performing at Birdland. But I want to talk first and foremost, during the pandemic, which set the world upside down, inside out. I can't think of a profession that was more harder hit. Well, everybody was hard hit. Mostly people were collecting unemployment. People weren't working in their offices. Shows had come to a complete stop on Broadway. Local performances and performers such as yourself were out of work. People were scared. People were worried. But for some reason, you didn't let that bother you. You sat down and decided to do something that I think is absolutely fantastic, which puts you really into a mode of moving forward where other acts might be sitting around crying in their beer about the pandemic. Talk about what you did. Then we're going to see this beautiful video that I really like, and then we'll come back and talk about some other things.
First, I don't think anybody knew that we were going to be shut down and out of work. I think it started off to be like 2 weeks, 2 months. No one knew how long it was going to be, but Now I can tell you I was out of work a whole year.
And
And
that had to destroy your savings and everything.
I'm used to getting up and getting dressed and looking in the mirror, making sure I look the way I want to look. And I wasn't doing that anymore. And it was getting tired. And I started watching, what else did we have to do back then but to pick up our phones and look at what other people were doing online. And I said, that's something that I would really like to do. I'd like to become a broadcaster, but I don't know anything about it. I've never done it before. So maybe I can come up with this idea of featuring other musicians from South Florida to New York to Vegas. I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people that would love to be on what I would call a show that I would sponsor or host. And so I contacted everybody, and they had nothing else to do. So everybody wanted to be on the show. And I said, okay, I had about 8 or 10 performers per week. But it took me 80 hours a week to put these shows together because I didn't have any assistance. I didn't have any help. I don't live with anybody. I have nobody, running lights or anything. I had to figure it out myself. I made a lot of mistakes. I have evidence of when I started this off on Instagram and all the congestion online from everybody doing it all at the same time. The internet was breaking apart. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out what to do, but I studied, and it took me 80 hours a week to do things. I have theatrical background. I was a dancer. I was in show business since I was 5 years old. So I've got a little theater behind me. So if I could get the technical part done, which all my friends know a big improvement now than it was when I first started, I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to speak. I had to learn not to be afraid to let this personality shine. But I was nervous at the beginning, and I was, didn't know what to say. I even went as far as getting rid of the glare in my glasses when you're reading the script. And you know how you do that, Gary?
Mm-hmm.
You make your script black and you make your letters white. So that when you're looking at the script, I was reading the script right off the computer screen.
Yeah. Or you go to your eyeglass place and they can put a glaze on your glasses, a blue glaze like I have, and it cuts it down completely.
Right, that's right. So that's what I did. And then people started asking me, well, why aren't you performing? I said, because I don't want to do it. I want to feature everyone else. I want to be the Ted Mack of the discovering the talent kind of thing. But I did start reversing everything around. I started performing myself. So that brought me to what I do today.
And it's on Facebook and Twitch TV.
Twitch, Instagram. Now I'm on Twitter. Now Twitter has allowed me to post videos over there. So I'm on all the platforms now, especially my favorite is TikTok. TikTok. That's my favorite.
But that has led you to have a better understanding of what it takes to put these shows together. And as you as a guest, you can appreciate what it's like now to be the host. And when the roles are reversed, you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. And it's not that difficult. I mean, being a host of a show is not rocket science, but it is another whole language.
But being the host, the engineer, the producer, the director, and the coordinator all in one shot, that's difficult.
Yes. Well, listen, you took on a task. Like I said, instead of sitting around and crying in your beer, and you learned and you took the opportunity to move forward, which is admirable, because I can think of a lot of performers in Las Vegas that I knew that just sat around crying in their beer, collecting their unemployment. And that was pretty much about it. But what I want to get to is this video. When was this recorded in Birdland?
This was done about a year and a half ago. I go up to Birdland, and I'm a guest singer there. I also fly out to Las Vegas, where I'm a guest singer at the Bootlegger. Mm-hmm. And now these venues have changed. Bootlegger is no longer, with the guest singer thing. So, and the pandemic has kept me away for a couple of years. But this was done about a year and a half ago, Jim Caruso's cast party.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Andres, would you please roll Birdland with my friend Chris Autore?
2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I got love. I got love. Sweet, sweet love. Sweeter than a flower. Grown by the apples. I got love. Sunshine, sun. I got mine. Carved on a willow. Told me to do it cause I got love. Every time I'm with you, I'm such a lucky guy. First time in my life, I got someone in this world. Bye-bye blue. I can't lose. Give it to me, honey. Every day, sunny, cause I got love. Get my chicks just right for some kissing. And I mean to kiss me and you. All those chicks don't know what they're missing. I've got a lot of living to do. Sizzling steak already was tasted. And this Cadillac's all shiny and new. Gotta move, cause time is a wasting. I've got a lot of living to do. There are music to play, places to go, people to see. Everything, just you and me. Lots of hope, but only you know it. And it's all just waiting for you. Your lights will come on and show it. I've got a lot of living, got a lot of living, got a lot of living to do. Let this go. E flat.
Yeah, the Chris Autore show. That is great stuff, Chris. That really is. That is great stuff. What I love about it is how you incorporate, how you just move through it, and then it's just really, I really enjoyed it. I really did. I watched it several times,
Did
and
you
I
hear
enjoyed
the audience was starting to get into it too?
Yeah, I think
that's a great room.
Yeah, well, Birdland, of course, is extremely famous, the same as some of the other rooms that you've played in. Chris, let's talk about something that I've often talked about with some of my guests. I just want to remind everybody, Chris Autore is my guest here on Main Street on this Tuesday. Hope you join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Gary Allen with you, your host. Next week, I have Joe Casal joining us, who is a former sports agent and current broadcaster, and a bunch of other things that he's done in his life. And also his little guy, Tasso, will be joining us as well next Tuesday at 2. Is there one room, one place that you would like to perform in before you close your eyes in 20, 30 years? Is there one room, one place, one theater, whatever that's it. That's your get. That's what I want to be there.
It doesn't exist for me. I have always dreamed about the ideal room, but the club owners or the managers or something ruins the quality of what you could have because they don't know what they're doing or they want to try, they want to experiment. If I had my way, I would have a circular stage in the center of a lounge with a white grand piano in the center where everybody could sit all around me. Screw the piano bars. I don't like piano bars. I will not work a piano bar. I've had my days with piano bar and I said I won't do it anymore. I don't like people sitting in my face. That's what a piano bar is. That's a piano bar performer, someone who does that. I'm a little bit more, I don't like distraction. So I've worked in clubs where I've been behind the piano, and the club owner all of a sudden decides to make it a piano bar. And that's when I exit, because people, when they're in your face, not only are they talking at you when you're running stuff, and
They're talking to each other.
Your show, but they also start talking to each other while you're singing, which I find it very rude. I'm an entertainer. I'm not used to people talking when I sing. I heard that just a few months ago when I worked at Williams Island in Miami Beach. I had a guest singer singing. I was her pianist, and everybody was talking. And she stopped me and she said to the people, she said, "Excuse me, I'm not used to people talking when I'm singing." I said to myself, wow, why didn't I ever do that years ago? I never even had the nerve to do that. Well, you know what? I've been doing it. I've been doing it.
Comedians do it. I will tell you.
I do it in a nice way. I do it in a nice way, and I make them think I'm kidding, but I'm not.
No. I'll tell you a quick story. This happened at Caesar's Palace. I'm working with Tom Jones. I just opened for him. I'm backstage. I'm cooling off. I'm having a soda, and I'm sitting on the side stage watching him perform, as I did every night, because I love Tom. My Uncle Tubby loved Tom. He used to refer to my uncle as Mr. Boots. Where's the lovely Mr. Boots? And one night, out of the blue, most audiences are very, very nice in Vegas, generally speaking, although the way they dress nowadays is another story altogether. But anyway, this gentleman is sitting in the front row with a cell phone, talking as loud as he possibly can. Tom gets through one song. He hears this guy still talking. He stops the show and he looks straight down at the guy, doesn't say a word. The guy finally looks up and says, "I'm on the phone with a business thing here." Tom says, "Not anymore. Security's coming to get you, and you'll be reimbursed, but not during my show will you do that." And he left, and the whole audience applauded, because the people around him were getting majorly distracted from that. There's nothing wrong with telling an audience, "Hey, I'm here to entertain you." Now, again, if you're at a party, a pool party or something like that, they're running around anyway doing whatever they want. That's a different kind of a story, maybe, to a certain extent. But if you're entertaining it, as that young lady was that you were performing with, yes, give the respect of the person on stage. There was a song that Peter Allen wrote. It was for Judy Garland, but it pertains to all performers. "Quiet, please. There's a lady on stage." And I believe that, whether you're a lady or a man, whoever performing, quiet, please. Give them their respect. They're on stage performing for you. That's how I feel.
Gary, most of the places that we play locally, they come to talk and drink and have a good time. This I understand.
Yeah.
So what I've done, as I told you earlier, is that I do my thing and I entertain them. They're enjoying me in their own way. But to get my satisfaction, I get off the piano and I walk around the room with the cordless mic and I sing tableside. I make a lot of money doing that. I mean, I never thought that my tips would increase by doing that, but I gave them a service. So I'm happy with that. So that works.
I bet you got a lot of phone numbers too.
Well, I give mine out.
Oh, you devilish dog, you. Getting back to the Get, is there one writer, performer, act, whatever, that you would have loved to have worked with, past, present, future, songwriter or performer that you would love to be on stage with at the same time?
Well, I have worked with the drummer from the Four Seasons. He auditioned with me in Hartford, Connecticut when he was a young man, and he got the job with me, but he went for the audition with the Four Seasons and he got that, and so I lost him. And we're still friends to this day, Jerry Polchi. But and he stayed with the Four Seasons for many years. So I have been with a few people. When I was 5, 6, and 7 years old is when I was with big stars. I mean, Tallulah Bankhead and Robert Q. Lewis. Do you remember those people?
Oh yes. I'm old enough to remember them. Yes.
Back in the 50s.
Yeah.
You asked me something earlier that I forgot all about, but I think it needs to be mentioned. You asked me, what do I tell young performers? Okay, so a lot of musicians call me all the time looking for work. And I say to them, why are you out of work? I could have found myself out of work just as many times as them if I didn't continue to reinvent myself. So when I was at the Jockey Club, I was there for 3 years. They closed because they had management problems and money problems. I scooted over to the Diplomat Hotel in Hollywood. The Diplomat, I stayed there for a while until they got sold and closed. Where was I going to go from there? So
well, wait. Didn't you stay with the new Diplomat when I think they call it the Sheridan now?
I've never worked at the new Diplomat.
Ah. My brother used to park cars there at the old one.
My point is that to find a job and to keep working, I had to do whatever I had to do to be where I am right now. And I went across the street to a Hilton. The Hilton had no piano. Now, I didn't come to Florida with a piano. I've been playing grand pianos. All of a sudden, all the grand pianos disappeared. You had to buy an electric piano if you wanted to stay working. Well, a lot of musicians who used to call me for work used to say they refuse to play an electric piano. Got to be an acoustic or nothing. I said, then you're going to be out of work. Because if you want to work, you need to do what you got to do. And I had to learn electric piano. I had to buy electric piano. I did whatever I had to do. And that was the advice that I gave those younger people who called me looking for a job.
Really? Wow. There's no difference between a keyboard for an electric piano and a grand piano, is there?
To acoustic piano players, yes. They don't want to do anything that's not pure. And that brings up another point where I get criticized and knocked and put down for playing with tracks.
Oh, yes. I've heard this.
Let me tell you, I didn't come to Florida playing with tracks. I came to Florida being a pianist. And I had an agent. And I know if my friend Marie is watching right now, she'll know what I'm talking about. But I got the job at Diano's Italian restaurant down in Hollandale. And the agent said to me, do you play with tracks? And I said, no. He said, well, then you can't have the job. I said, well, how do I get to play with tracks? So I learned how to play with tracks and I got the job. And from then on, I do whatever I have to do to fit whatever bill I have to fit. I'm not like just one person. I can be a lot of people. I could be a lot of different entertainment areas. I cover everything.
Well, you and JC, who are two favorite people of mine, and we've got you in mind for the event that we're going to be doing at the Miami Zoo for veterans coming up as soon as we can get all the dot the I's and cross the T's over the next 5 months or so, because that takes a while to go in. And I know you two have worked well together in the past, so I'm looking forward to that opportunity, having you both with us. When you move swiftly from one genre to the other, do you have a favorite? Is it jazz? Is it rock and roll? I know it's probably not rap, but do you have a favorite genre that when you're driving down 95, if there is such a thing anymore as driving down 95 or the parking lot of 95, that you like to listen to that kind of mellows you out after you've performed all night long? Or do you drive in your car with nothing on?
You're never going to believe this, but I don't listen to music at all.
Really?
Not in the car. I listen to most of my music online. When I'm learning songs and when I'm trying to learn a new song, other songs come in. It's like when you're on the internet, you weave in and out of all kinds of sites. That's where I hear all my music. I don't put the radio on anymore except talk radio, because I'm sick of music when I'm get through doing a job. I'm doing 14 shows a week, which is now going to dwindle down to 11 shows a week now that we're in summer. And working, that's why I stopped doing my shows officially for about 6 to 8 months, because I didn't have any time to come home and then want to sit here and do this. But I'm getting back into it again.
Well, I'll tell you what, your show would be perfect for this network. I'm telling you right now, it really, really would. But that's something you'll have to decide on your own, because I think you're a fabulous entertainer in so many ways. Have you ever run across a situation as a performer that you weren't comfortable with when you first got there as a performer, and it just everything wasn't going right, and you just walked out?
A room,
yeah.
plenty.
Yeah.
But I didn't walk out. always did the gig, but they weren't all pleasant.
Yeah.
All pleasant. Today I pick and choose what I want to do and how I want to do it. I really, after doing this for a year online, I really wanted to continue doing the shows online and not go out and work anymore.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way. I got offered so many things after the pandemic that I just couldn't turn it down.
You know, I don't know you that well, but in a short period of time, I've gotten to know you as I've had the opportunity to know a lot of performers over the years. I don't think you're ever going to stop. Now, you may want to do what I do and interview people and talk to entertainers and stuff, but I don't think you could live very long, the inside you, the entertainer in you, without having a live audience in front of you at least a few times a week. I really, now I could be completely wrong, Chris, and don't be mad at me, but I think there's something inside of you that says, I've got to be there.
You're not wrong. I can't live without my music. If I have a day off, a night off, I go nuts. You know,
I know because you,
my life is not split into family, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. My life is music. My son lives up in Atlanta. I see him all the time. But when I come home and there's no distraction. So I do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I can't be without working. I just love my music. I die without it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the day when we were able to expand Mainstreet out beyond one day a week and another show that I'm going to be doing, which is more faith-based, which has to do with my personal religious beliefs and stuff like that. What changes would you like to see in the business itself as far as how acts are treated, how acts perform, and how the pay scale works? Because I know for a fact on the comedic side of show business, comedians that work in comedy clubs don't make much more than they did back when the comic strip was up in Fort Lauderdale, which I know you remember because that's where I got my start all those years ago. They're still getting cab fare for the most part, and even the headliners are only getting $1,200 to $1,500 a week. You say to yourself, well, that's a lot of money. Well, not really when you get through paying agents and transportation and hotels and everything else. What would you like to see changes done to the business from A to Z?
I would like to be able to do what everyone else does and cry for more money, because we're still working for crap sometimes, and everyone else is on television protesting for more money, but musicians were always on the back burner because musicians do not stick together. They continue working for lower prices, and therefore it makes it bad for everybody. I've often wanted to start something where we put these payers in their place. But I can't get enough of people to stick with me on that one. So I do, for myself, I do very well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it like me, it comes around to when the bills come in, how you're going to pay your money. You have your standards that you want to go by. But unfortunately, the bills still have to be paid, the rent, the mortgage, whatever the case may be. And with them going sky high these days, it's getting worse and worse.
I don't do 14 shows a week to make more money.
Yeah.
I do 14 shows a week because I love working.
Yeah.
And I don't leave any stone unturned. I just take every job I can get.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, I could certainly understand that. And I can understand how some people, hold on 1 second here. I'm going to turn that thing off because it keeps ringing. We've only got a few minutes left here in the program, and I want to thank Chris Autore for taking the time to join us this afternoon and talk about it. We're getting some music coming over live, Andreas. Where are you going to be performing in the next few days, in the next week? Let's plug some of the areas you're going to be so people can come and see you who are not maybe 100% familiar with you.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to this private party that I'm going to be doing this Sunday night at the River House. That's not going to help anybody because they can't come. But I'm really, really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to going back to Williams Island during season. But that about does it. I mean, Maggiano's every Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of places you can come and see me in public. Most of my stuff is private,
Yeah.
and I've got about 2 or 3 jobs that are public.
Well, I'm going to have you and JC on at the same time, because I think that would be a gas. And I know that once I get going, and my business partner and I get going, we're going to be utilizing you and JC and some others in South Florida for some of the events that we are conceptualizing and trying to put forward and move forward. But because you're a fabulous entertainer.
Thank you.
Well, listen, you're very, very, very talented, and you're very, very good at what you do, and I think that's very, very important. And people are writing in now saying, "What a great show! Thank you all very much. Great interview. Thank you very, very much." I appreciate that, and I know Chris does too, and I know that he appreciates his audience and his fans and people who. And there's nothing more than when you put it out there, Chris. When you work in the entertainment business, or anything for that matter. My wife was in the advertising business. When you put it out there, and you're waiting for somebody to give you a feedback on it, you're like, oh my God, are they going to like it? They're going to like it. They're not going to like it. And, everybody seems to enjoy what you do. I enjoy your music very, very much. You're a super talented young man, and I wish you all the happiness in the world. We'll be in touch. Right after the show, I'll give you a buzz myself. But I want to conclude this up because we've got another show coming on board, and I went over it a little bit last week. I want to thank my executive producer, Rick Del Vecchio. I want to thank my studio producer, Andres, and Ilion and Mike for also participating, my community sponsors, the Japanese Gardens and the Elks Lodges of South Florida. I want to thank Chris Autore so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, thank you for coming on Main Street.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, listen, it was a pleasure. Next week, we have Joe Cassell, who is a public relations director. He's also a sports agent at one time, and he's also a marketing genius, a broadcaster. We're going to talk about his amazing life and the people that he dealt with, the people he talked to, as well as a little four-legged guy named Tasso, who came into his life and has completely changed it 180 degrees in so many ways. But most of all, I want to thank all of you out there for taking the time to join us as you do every week on Main Street. Without you, this show doesn't fly. And also, Michael and Grant Miller, thank you so much for giving me this platform. I appreciate it very, very much. God bless you. And until next week, take care of yourselves and each other.
Bye, everybody.